What's up, everybody? Well, I hope I don't get caught making this video, so I'll try to make it quick. Got a bright light shining on my face. Might as well just kind of still haven't taken those down, so I put them on. So what I want to title this video, it's gonna have kind of a strange title. Might release it Valentine's, since I might not get to make any Valentine videos, might not have any Valentine videos, might be gone, not even get to make it Friday the 13th. So I don't know what I'll do about that day, but I want to title this video Farley and Farquaad. And it's some subject matters that I haven't really talked about. I've been thinking about things I'd like to discuss besides the Rugrats and that stupid movie I should never have gone to see. And I want to talk about one thing I've always disliked about the Shrek movie. Well, Shrek 1. So, if you don't like the first movie, you pretty much don't like the series. I never have liked, from the first time I saw the first movie, never did like the series because I felt like I hated the outcome, okay? Spent the whole movie wishing that Fiona would just wise up and just marry Lord Farquaad. I guess I kind of had a soft spot for him. Sort of like the Cedric guy. Just always kind of had a soft spot for guys that were underdogs, but didn't see themselves that way, And I always thought Lord Farquaad was the best match for Fiona. From the moment I started watching it, I hoped that that would be the outcome, though I knew it probably wouldn't be. I hoped that Fiona would come to her senses, do the math, and realize that her best chance at a good life would be to swallow her pride and just marry Lord Farquaad. Even if he's not the perfect guy that she would want, he's not exactly tall, he still would have provided, I think, the best life she could have had. A continuation of luxury, being a princess, and most importantly of all, she could have been a princess with beautiful white skin like this and red hair. Beautiful ginger princess, 24/7. And if she had kids, they would just be ordinary white kids, short, tall, or something in between, most likely. And I really did not like that movie. How the premise of it was that you can discriminate against a guy based on his height. It's okay to make fun of someone who is a little person, because let's face it, that's what Lord Farquaad was, a little person. That it's okay to hate people based on being short if they're male, but it's not okay to hate someone because they're ugly and their skin is a different color than white. And I always felt like it was an example, a hideous ogre of an example of how movies subliminally teach their values. They want kids to have their leftist values. And I feel like a lot of things are coded. Shrek even said things are not always what they seem. And that's so symbolic and true. And so, while the ogres may have had green skin, and Mike Myers in real life is a white man, I feel like they were coded as black. I feel like the whole movie was racially coded in a subversive way, that Shrek represents a black man. He, with the shaved head, being ugly and a different skin tone, otherwise just a normal everyday guy, living in the poorhouse on the outskirts of town, being stronger and braver and tougher and more athletic, than Lord Farquaad, who sent others to do his dirty work. And I feel like that Lord Farquaad represents the rich white man who sends other people to do his dirty work and lives in luxury and feels like he should be forgiven for his shortcomings, however obvious, and that people should lie about his shortcomings and misrepresent him as being better than he is. Like, the tall figure on the cake. That represents the lack of little boy dolls. On the rare occasion, they don't make such dolls because they think that the small percentage of males who would want some sort of a doll or figure to represent them would want an adult with the best body you could ever have, muscles and chiseled jaw, a face that makes you hear a deep voice in your head. And so they want to always represent boys and men in the most flattering light. Few male protagonists are blonde. And, they just always want to, how would you say, flatter them. And that's what they were doing with Lord Farquaad. And I like him because he just reminds me of a Christmas toy soldier, as a little guy. And I really, the only thing I don't like is the length of his hair. He could stand a haircut. But I really, I guess I just have a weakness for antagonists in general. I always think they're more interesting. But if I had been Fiona, I would have married Farquaad. I just would have. He's got an interesting name. He had blue eyes, light skin. And I could have fetishized his height. Just like the Cedric guy having a weird nose. And, two-tone hair. But I feel like it's a shame that more and better was not done with his character. And I feel like, I spent the whole movie hoping that Fiona would either just marry him at the last minute, even though he wasn't the truest love she could ever find, or that he would find a little bitty petite woman, that was more his height or shorter, like a little person couple, a little couple, basically, that he would find a short woman instead of Fiona, if she didn't love him, because I think it's a shame. I don't like the ending, how he was eaten by a dragon. I do not like tragic endings. I never have. Just never have liked the way so many movies, they just kill off the antagonist and you never hear from him again. That's probably what they would have done with Cedric if it wouldn't have been a series. I mean, they just gradually phased him out as it was. Didn't kill him, but just transformed him into a minor character. But I really hate that. Really did not like the ending. How he gets eaten by a dragon. And they even have a mild puke joke where she burps up the crown and that's like vomiting. And I just really did not like, I don't like the crudeness and the irreverence, because I feel like that was around the time, it was almost like movie makers got this idea, now that we're in the 21st century, let's see how crude we can make children's shows. And I feel like that sort of led to the Rugrats series just deteriorating over time. They went from bad to even worse with the crudeness, because it's like they were trying to outdo each other. How much crudeness can we put in a children's show and still laugh because the parents will bring them to it? I thought that was just so uncalled for, to have fart jokes like that in a movie with a princess, even if she's not the one doing it. A movie with a princess attracts little girls, but yet you have these fart jokes, and that's disgusting. So I didn't really like it because I saw it as subversive or subliminal, that green was a code for brown, and that Shrek was representative of a black guy, you know, a non-white person, and you know, him living in living in poverty, far away from the white, you know, royal people. And I feel like Fiona transforming into an ogre at night, you see, was symbolic of wanting to be with a black man. You know what I'm saying? Because sleeping with a black man is like being an ogre at night. Marrying one is like being one 24/7. Whereas she could have just married the white guy, and the ogre thing could have been a skeleton in her closet, you know, a secret from her past that no one needed to hear about. And so I did not think she chose wisely, you know. Even if Lord Farquaad was not a tall guy, I mean, he couldn't help that any more than the ogres could help being ogres. And I thought it was sad that, you know, rather than him finding a short woman, you know, that he was simply eaten by a dragon and never heard from again. And that's sad. And I think it's a shame that they did not have dolls. You know, that Fiona and I think later Shrek were the only 1/6 dolls. See, I get these offers for dolls. I just look at a doll one time and I get a freaking offer. And I hate it because it's like I have to look at that until it expires. Or I could decline, but I don't want to do that because it would hurt their feelings and they may not send me more offers in the future. And so that's what I wanted to talk about, was how did not like Shrek because I see it as a subversive way. It's very similar to the Rugrats in Paris movie, a way of saying that feel free to marry the person you love no matter what they look like, no matter what you're gonna look like, you know, no matter what your children are gonna look like, no matter how poor you're gonna be, no matter how bad of a decision it is for your life story. Just marry the person you love and let the chips fall where they may. And I hate that message. I think that's disgusting. You know, I think not marrying at all would be far preferable. But, and I see it as symbolic. You know, her transforming full-time into an ogre is like a white woman getting dreadlocks and a tan and wearing clothing, you know, that black people are more likely to wear in order to fit in with a black husband and have black children and live in the black community. And I think that's terrible. That's a terrible message. Terrible message. Couldn't think of a worse message. Other than homosexuality, which there's a lot of that sprinkled in there. The other thing I want to talk about, why I want to call this Farley and Farquaad, because once upon a time, there was a series by Judy Blume, and I'm just now thinking about this lately as an adult. But there used to be 3 books, like, that I somewhat got into, along with the Ramona Quimby series, but Judy Blume wrote about this little boy named Fudge. He may have been patterned after her own son. So this was way back in the 80s or before. Different worlds. And Fudge was a little boy, like a toddler or preschooler. He was 3 years old in the first book, introducing his new baby sister, I think. That was Super Fudge. Or no, wait a minute. No, there was Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing. I think he was 3 then. And he didn't have a little sister. It was just his older brother, Peter, in the 4th grade. And then I think there was Super Fudge. Might have been the next one. Where he was 4. And they got a new baby sister. Peter would have been like a 5th grader. Something like that. Then the following book, Fudge is 5. I know Fudge-a-mania was the last one. And so he was 5. Baby sister was about 1.5 years. Peter was in 6th grade. So, I wanted to talk about stupid, annoying vehicles. I want to talk about how I used to have 2 of them. I mean, I've since gotten rid of all of my books, children's books. I didn't have Super Fudge, but I had 4th Grade Nothing and Fudge Mania, first and last, I think. So he went from age 3 to age 5. And my mom let me keep the last one, Fudge Mania. See, his nickname was Fudge, but his real name was Farley. And so I used to have 4th Grade Nothing. And I read it. I want to say it was 10 or 10 or 11. I don't know. It was elementary. And somehow or another, there was this part near the end that I think was a subtle reference to vomiting and or pooping. And it was when he swallowed the turtle. And they gave him something to make the turtle come out. And I asked my mom, what does that mean? How is the turtle going to come out? But the turtle ended up dying. And it's like they don't give you a lot of graphic details. They just say something that they gave Fudge made the turtle come out of him. He was 3 years old. And he was in the hospital. So I wanted more information on what that meant, because they were so how'd you say, they would beat around the bush in these books a lot of times. Euphemistic And so I used to have that book. And I can remember my mom used to give my cousin birthday presents. And one thing she used to give him was books. This boy cousin, a year younger than me. And so she'd give him books and clothing and other things. And so one day she decided to send him a birthday package when he turned 10. So I would have been 11. And in the package were 2 books. One of them was this Otis Spofford book. She said she wasn't going to give him a Ramona book because it's about girls. And she gave him 4th Grade Nothing. So 2 of my books were given to him as presents. And then she later went to the store and bought me another Otis Spofford. And she says, I couldn't find the 4th Grade Nothing book. I just needed to give him a present on his birthday. Well, I think the reality, she wanted that book out of my collection. She wanted me to no longer have that book, the 4th Grade Nothing one in particular, because she caught on to it that I was in some way fantasizing about what that could possibly mean, because I think she's always caught hints over the years that I have fetishes about poop and vomit in particular. I mean, the vomit thing was pretty obvious, how much I like to talk about it. But I think she wanted to get that book away from me. And giving it to my cousin was the perfect excuse, for his 10th birthday. And she framed it as, you're out of that age group. So, he would relate to it better than you. And I didn't have anything I wanted him to have another present. She probably already gave him a t-shirt or some money in a card or something else. But I think the reality is that my parents, and especially my mom, have always caught on to subtle hints over the years, whether they saw things that I had drawn, whether they, just subtle hints, may not know the full extent of my obsession with those 2 functions. But I think that's why she got rid of my 4th Grade Nothing book. And I still kept Fudge-mania for many years until we got rid of all of them. Put them in a giveaway box or something many years later. But I think my parents have always been on to me more than I'd like them to be. So I'll go ahead and post this video.